The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob Emrani.
Accident or injury, call Jacob Emrani. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mase. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason, along with Sue 𝐒𝐓 𝐃𝐄𝐍𝐈𝐒. This is the show where we talk about everything happening in the world of pop culture. Sue Baloo, what's happening? Great guest today, huh? Wendi McLendon-Covey is going to be on. Love St. Denis Medical. We will talk to her. Finally, I have seen all of the 2024 movies that are in the awards race and that you could conceivably put on a 10 best list. The last one, and I put it off and put it off and put it off, and finally watched The Brutalist, directed by Brady Corbet, and of course starring Adrien Brody. Did you watch it yet?
I did.
And?
I was a little disappointed. And, it started off very compelling. And then the main part of the story for me, I thought was kind of boring. Didn't really care about the guy whose house that he designed that room for.
This is the Guy Pearce character, yeah?
Guy Pearce character. To me, the most compelling characters were his cousin and his cousin's wife. I would have liked to have seen more of that relationship. And then the end just left me completely like, it just ended.
I liked the movie up until the intermission. I thought, here's this cool immigrant story, guy finding himself. I love the way it slowly discovered who he was in Yugoslavia or in Hungary, and his background and his extensive architecture career. After the intermission, I just felt like it became overwrought. I felt like it became a little confusing. I thought it became muddled. I didn't think it knew what it was about as much. I do think Adrien Brody is terrific. I mean, I was watching him in the first part of that movie. I mean, he is an unbelievably gifted actor, without question. I just felt like this thing started out as promising, and the second act, if you will, was disappointing, takes a really dark turn, and it just didn't work for me. So salute to everybody who has watched all 3.5 hours. It's certainly worth watching, but not among my favorite movies of the year.
Yes, it was worth watching the first half.
Yes, the first half, and then don't come back after the intermission. By the way, it would be a really good movie if you just ended it at the intermission.
I know.
Soaring, immigrant story, beautiful construction. I mean, all that's, it could have ended right there and you would have said, wow, that was great. Instead, it takes this really dark turn in the second act, and it just doesn't work for me.
I'm right there with you.
All right. So I'm assuming neither of us have it on our best films of the year list.
Do not have it.
Okay. So I want to take a minute. I'm going to safely guess that both of us have Emilia Pérez on our 10 best list, right? Okay. So I want to take a minute and talk about the controversy surrounding this movie. Carla Sofia Gascon, who plays Emilia Pérez, apparently said all this crazy shit on social media before this movie ever became a thing. And among the stuff she said, she called Islam a hotbed of infection for humanity. She says there are too many Muslims in her daughter's school, and next year, instead of English, they'll have to teach Arabic. She called the COVID-19 vaccine the Chinese vaccine. In addition to the mandatory chip, comes with 2 spring rolls. She stated that Adolf Hitler simply had his own opinion about Jews. I mean, this is like crazy shit.
And she also attacked George Floyd. She said
and attacked George Floyd.
Nobody would have cared about him if he was, he was just this black guy who was a drug addict loser.
Unbelievable. So I am of the belief that Emilia Pérez has been completely tanked in the Best Picture race at the Oscars. I don't think it has a chance to win anymore. And a lot of it does have to do with her. Although there are other little things that have started to get on my nerves. Like, I don't know, did you watch the Critics' Choice Awards?
I did not.
Okay, they were on Friday night. 𝐓𝐇𝐄 𝐆𝐑𝐼𝐒, the director and the writer, was so annoying in his speech. It's like he did something that was so, is the term uncouth? I think it's uncouth.
Mm-hmm.
So he walks up there. He was nominated 3 times. He's nominated for Best Director, Best Picture, and Best Foreign Language Film. So when he's winning for Best Foreign Language Film, he says, I have 3 speeches. This is the speech for my first award. And then he gives the speech. And I'm like, you're already putting the other 2 awards in the bag. You are so obnoxious. And he wore this kind of French hat. He tilted it a certain way. It was just all like theatrical and performative. And it annoyed me. So in addition to Carla Sofia Gascon, 𝐓𝐇𝐄 𝐆𝐑𝐼𝐒 is not, I mean, it's not like he did anything that rivals that, but he just was annoying. It's still on my 10 best list, although I don't think it can win Best Picture anymore.
Yeah, it's just this cocky, narcissistic attitude. He kind of had it at the Golden Globes, too.
He did.
It's just, he made some gesture, like where's his interpreter?
Yes.
Like he was summoning her like someone would rudely summon a waitstaff,
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
There's something about him that gets on my nerves, but it should be on the list. It is on the list. I hope that Zoe Saldana is still able to win for Best Supporting Actress. She certainly deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved her in the movie, and I loved her in that big musical scene she has for the song El Mal. I just thought she was terrific. But I hope that Carla Sofia Gascon does not weigh her down to the point where she cannot win.
Now, she was directed by Carla Sofia Gascon. She was directed by Netflix not to show up at all
Correct.
these award shows. Now, is she not going to be at the Academy Awards?
It's a good question. I was just talking to Juan about this. They've cut off her fashion wardrobe allowance and her makeup allowance and her styling allowance, and they've asked her not to go.
And flights too. They won't pay for any of flights.
So if you're her, do you want to go there and be essentially a leper in that room of all those famous people, or are you better off staying away? I'm guessing she stays home.
Yeah. I would, but and I know
but who knows?
And I know she apologized. It's like they come out after the fact and say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I may have offended people. I may have hurt people's feelings."
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you definitely did.
Yeah, said a ton of heinous shit, and I don't want to see her at the Oscars.
I'm taking it off the list.
I almost want to take it off my 10 best list. I just hate what she did so much, but it's still there. So, What else is on your list, Sue?
A Complete Unknown.
A Complete Unknown is absolutely on my list. I loved it from beginning to end. And here's my theory of the case, Sue. I think A Complete Unknown is going to win Best Picture. I know nobody sees it on the radar right now. It's certainly one of the nominees. But I think It's a really good, entertaining movie. It's not dour like Oscar movies can be. It is about an important historical figure. It features several just tremendous performances based on real life people, Dylan and Joan Baez and Woody Guthrie. I just think there's so much in it to love. So I think it's on my list, and I think it's going to win Best Picture.
I think that film and Anora are going to be neck and neck, because Anora to me is so unique and was great from the moment it started to the moment it ended.
Yep.
And it was just great script, great cast, just a really different movie too. I mean, I know Emilia Pérez was very unique, but this was kind of, I mean, I know people that didn't like Emilia Pérez. They just didn't go for it.
I know people that didn't like it at all.
At all. I know people who started watching it and couldn't continue.
Yep.
I never heard anybody say that about Anora. It was just really the complete package. And so I think it's going to be really close between those two films.
I don't know if you know this or not, but Anora did win the Critics' Choice Award for Best Picture. I think it's terrific. Sean Baker, really, really good director. Mikey Madison is tremendous in this movie. I mean, I still think if it wasn't Demi Moore's year, Mikey Madison probably would have won the Oscar.
Because yes. Well, won the Golden Globe, you mean?
Won the Golden and won the Oscar. Mikey Madison. Because I think Demi Moore is going to win the Oscar.
No, I know, but you're saying that Demi Moore won the Oscar before she's won the Oscar.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, she's won. Yes. She's won all the. She will win the Oscar.
And that's when I feel really bad about an actress who gives such an amazing performance, and then another actress who certainly deserves it, who is older, this veteran actress. It's just a great story. How she's just risen in her career. She's come out of nowhere and has given the performance of her life.
Yes.
So it's unfortunate for Mike Madison, because I think she was phenomenal.
She was amazing. And Bora Yorosov, who plays just like the subtlest role. No real dialogue throughout the movie, very little dialogue, and still conveys such a powerful message and creates such a connection with Annie, with Anora. There's so much to love about that movie. And by the way, and I think it can also win Best Picture. I think it's also got a shot at it, because I think Emilia Pérez is out and everybody else has a shot. What else is on Sue Kalinsky's list of the best of 2024?
The Substance.
Oh, okay.
The Substance. And a lot of it has to do with just the message and how the message was portrayed about women who are irrelevant, become irrelevant, and what they'll go through to kind of be young again. It's just the extremity of it all. And I just thought the performances were great. And again, just a really, really unique take on subject matter that has been out in the world for so many years. It was just a really, really original take.
I think it's a really smart movie. I think Demi Moore is terrific. I love Margaret Qualley in that movie also. And Dennis Quaid is great as a creepy network executive guy. It actually did not make my list, though. It isn't in my top 10.
Okay.
I'll tell you one that's in my top 10 that's not in yours.
Okay.
Deadpool and Wolverine. I love this movie. It is so funny. Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman. It was the only Marvel movie to come out in 2024. It is a hard R rating. Deadpool has got an unbelievably foul mouth, and those two guys go at it like crazy. I really love Deadpool and Wolverine. So that is on my list, and I had a feeling it wouldn't be on yours.
I didn't see it yet, so,
It's very, very funny.
And me, I'm kind of known for picking movies I haven't seen yet. So
That's right.
And I may have one that I haven't seen yet, but one that I think is probably not on your list is a movie called We Live in Time.
I don't know this movie.
You have to see this movie. It is with Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield.
Oh yeah, I've heard about this movie. Yeah, I did not get a chance to see it.
It's this this sleeper film, small indie film, kind of made a little bit of a push, to be nominated. Made a lot of money. It was a box office hit. The chemistry between the two of them is so amazing that it's hard to believe that it wasn't snippets of their real life. They are so perfect in this. And the story, the way it's told, because it's got this it has this it's like it's non-linear, but it's very stylish. So, and it's kind of a sad love story. And I don't want to give anything away.
Okay, yeah, don't give anything away.
I don't want to give anything away, but it's told in a way that romantic movies just aren't told, because it's kind of a genre that can get kind of tired, and but just the way they shot it, the script is amazing. Obviously, the direction is great.
Yeah.
And again, the acting is just, it's like those nuanced moments when you see like an actor and you don't know, sometimes you don't know how much is planned or it happens in the moment, but something as subtle as like lovingly moving like a piece of hair out of somebody's face, like what was her hair really out and he just saw it and just moved it, and he did the things that you would expect someone who was so in love with somebody to do, you know?
Well, I love Andrew. Andrew Garfield is a really special actor, I think.
He really is.
Really, really good. Here's one that's not on your list. I'm confident. The Fall Guy, which had Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling. Did you see this movie?
I haven't seen it.
It is just a great, big, fun, romantic comedy. The relationship starts and they don't get along, and then they start kind of falling in love. It's a really fun, entertaining movie. I find them both to be really appealing actors, and I thought just a fun movie. It did not perform at the box office, so I wanted to give it a shout out because it is now available on streaming, and you should definitely check it out. It got blamed for being a tank job back in May. It's a much better movie than you've heard it is. The Fall Guy is on my list.
What was the criticism about it when you say it was a tank job?
It didn't perform at the box office.
I see what you mean. Okay.
It wasn't a critical failure. It was a box office failure.
Financial. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I have one that I think is not on your list.
Okay.
Daughters. It's a documentary.
Don't know it. Don't know
You
it.
don't know? Oh,
no.
It's really sweet. It's a story. Actually, Jessica Seinfeld, Jerry's wife, is one of the producers. It's a story about 4 young girls who they prepare for this special daddy daughter dance in the jail where their fathers are incarcerated. And it's a real thing that happened in Washington, D.C., and because they couldn't be with their dads, so they brought the dance to the jail.
Wow.
And it is just a lovely, lovely film about just the love of a parent and their daughter, and vice versa.
Yeah,
it's
nice.
Really, really beautiful movie. I think you'd really like it.
On my list, here's my documentary, Will and Harper.
Oh yes, Will and Harper. Yes.
Which is Will Ferrell and his friend Harper, who's a trans woman. He discovered that she's a trans woman just before they started shooting this documentary, and then they travel across the country. This movie was so significant to me, Sue, that I now know better how to talk about trans issues and the life of a trans woman or a trans man. I learned that from watching the documentary, and Will Ferrell is just the sweetest guy. What a sweetheart of a guy he is. I just thought really beautiful documentary from beginning to end, and again learned how to explain or talk about trans issues in a better way, which I definitely needed.
Yeah. And when we talked about the film on another podcast, I was saying that it was probably the loveliest gesture a friend can do for another friend.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
yeah.
such a statement on just a wonderful guy he is. Is it too late for me to put that on my list?
No, stick it on there.
I'm gonna stick it on
Number
there because
11.
I forgot. I forgot.
Bonus movie.
I forgot about it.
Yeah.
What else? A Real Pain.
I like the movie a lot. It is not on my list.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it was a sweet movie. I love the relationship between the two guys. Thought the script was great.
Karen Culkin's terrific.
Karen Culkin is great. Jesse Eisenberg is great.
Yep.
Yeah, it
wrote
was,
and directed. Yeah, I liked it a lot. It's not on my list, but I liked it a lot.
Okay.
I have The Last Showgirl on my list.
I do too.
I really love the movie. I love Pamela Anderson. We talked about it recently on a show. Pamela Anderson, as this broken down showgirl, is such a there's a sweetness to the movie. And I love Jamie Lee Curtis in the movie as well, as like the former dancer from the big razzle dazzle show who's now cocktailing in the casinos and what her life is like. I just thought a really interesting slice of life, and I loved Pamela Anderson in it.
Yeah. And it was the way it was shot too. We talked about this again also, it was shot like what was that movie that we had talked about? The Florida Project.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It had that kind of feel to it, it was very real. Conclave
I liked, and I did not put on my list.
I love the movie. I loved the story. I thought the script was great. I think it's probably going to get a writing award. I don't know if it was adapted.
It was adapted
adapted
from a Robert Harris novel. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to win that. I don't think it's definitely not gonna win best film, but I just thought it was great, and the setting of it.
Don't count it out in Best Picture, which I think is wide open.
Yeah, I just don't think it's gonna win Best Picture, but I thought it was a really, really well done movie. And
yeah, I think
the subject matter was very, very compelling.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been fascinated by how you elect a pope and what goes on once they close those doors. And Stanley Tucci and John Lithgow were both terrific, along with Ralph Fiennes. Yeah, it's not on my list, but it's a movie I like very much. How about Dune Part 2?
I knew that was going to be on your list.
Oh, it is so good. If this was the final installment of Dune, it would win Best Picture. It's a glorious masterpiece. And I mean, I'm not a huge science fiction guy. I wasn't blown away by the first Dune. It didn't capture me the way this one did, but casting and effects and Denis Villeneuve, tremendous director. By the way, I practiced 5 times how to say his name. Denis Villeneuve is the correct pronunciation. And when Dune Part 3 comes out, barring like a complete disaster, I think it will win Best Picture. It'll be like when Lord of the Rings, the third one, actually went on to win Best Picture. I think Zendaya, Timothée Chalamet, I mean, just amazing cast. I love Dune Part 2 and cannot wait for Dune Part 3.
Haven't seen it, but I will.
Okay.
Wicked.
Wicked is on my list. Yes, absolutely.
It was so much fun. Such a great movie. Just, you can't go wrong with the music. The acting was great. I mean, the
John M. Chu, the director, I was glad to see won Best Director at the Critics' Choice Awards. He didn't even get nominated at the Oscars, as if this movie directed itself.
It's crazy. And someone made a really great point. It may have been on Facebook. They were saying that there were 10 nominated movies and only 5 Best Directors. And
do you think there should be more Best Director nominees?
Well, it just feels like I think it's missing some directors because for the fact that he's not nominated, right?
No, he's not nominated.
I mean, how could he not be nominated for this movie?
I don't get that. Yeah, I don't get that at all. It's because it's a big, complex one to direct. I mean, it's
I know.
showstopper after showstopper.
Oh, and the art direction. I mean, that's
The
another
dance, the
award.
costumes, everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, everything that he put together, it's just mind blowing.
And by the way, I also think it could win Best Picture.
It could. It could.
I also think. Now, I've only got one movie left on my list that I haven't talked about. What about you?
Let me see. 1, 2,
Did we
3,
get 'em
4,
all?
5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
6,
8,
7,
9, 10. But I do have another movie that I did like, so we could talk about that.
Okay. In my top 10, Challengers. Starring Zendaya, Mike Feist, Josh O'Connor was great in it. I thought sexy, kind of hot, actually. The tennis scenes were not perfect, but they were shot in a really interesting way, where you were not exposing actors who just had no tennis experience at all. They found a way to kind of shoot around that and make it look like professional tennis. I love some of the directional angles and stuff. And again, I thought the score, Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, fantastic. So much about that movie I liked. It is on my list, and Challengers got pretty much snubbed at the Oscars. I think it got completely snubbed. Not even the score got nominated, which I think just doesn't seem right to me because it's a great score. You didn't like that movie.
I started watching it, and it just didn't grab me, and I will go back to it. Just because the way you're talking about it, but I just couldn't get into it. I didn't like it.
You know what's kind of impressive? We do this show all year long, and we had so many different movies on our lists. Like, your stuff is different from my stuff, which is, I think last year we did this, and we all had the same movies, or we both had the same movies. This year, we've covered a lot of ground. What was the other movie you wanted to throw in there?
Well, this is the movie I haven't seen that I think I'm going to really like.
Okay.
I'm Still Here.
It's good.
I think I'm really going to like it.
Yeah, it's good. It's, I saw it a couple of weeks ago. It is, she's tremendous. Fernanda Torres is just amazing. It does a great job of showing what day-to-day life is like in an authoritarian dictatorship, what it's like to have all this awful stuff going on all around you, and worrying and protecting and being careful with your family to keep them out of all of the damage that's happening in a society. So I thought from that perspective, just a beautiful, beautiful movie.
Sounds like Here.
Yeah. You know what? That is not lost on me. I thought about it the entire time I was watching the movie.
Yeah.
But definitely see I'm Still Here. It's nominated for Best Picture, nominated for Best Foreign Language Film, and nominated for Best Actress, Fernanda Torres. All right, let's get to our guest here. Before we do, hey, don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment, a review, a show idea. Maybe there's a movie that you think should be on our list that wasn't, or a movie that is on our list that you think shouldn't be. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, subscribe to the show. Big points if you leave us a 5-star rating and a review. And if you know somebody who the Culture Pop podcast is perfect for, tell them about it, direct it to them. We're always looking for new listeners as we continue to grow the show and grow the audience for the show. And our guest today started her career in improv, and her first big break was in the series Reno 911. She went on to star in movies like Bridesmaids and Barb and Star. Go to Vista Del Mar. I love that movie. Since then, she's been a fixture on television, spending 10 years as the star of The Goldbergs. Her new series is the very funny St. Denis Medical on NBC. Wendi McLendon-Covey joins us. Wendi, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate. Huge fan of St. Denis and your whole career. Want to get into all of it. Thanks and congratulations on the show.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Joyce, your character is so funny. She's the boss. You don't have a lot of resources at the hospital. her job is to put the best face on everything, but she is clearly wound very tight. That has to be fun to play for you as an actress and as a comedian.
It's just in my wheelhouse. I'm a very tightly wound person. No, I based Joyce on a series of women that I used to work with back before I was acting. And, you got to put that brave face on every day and keep everybody motivated. But inside, you're going to explode. You're going to explode because all you want to do is literally anything else for a job, but you've put the time in with this one. And what are you going to do? Switch careers like 9 years before you retire? Probably not.
Right.
So, I think she resonates with people in that way.
I love the mockumentary model because when done right, there's nothing funnier. And I love when it's set in a situation where, people have to be serious. I mean, working in a hospital, it's serious. But the way I always look at jobs, because, I did stand up for a very long time.
Oh.
And it's like every job to me, it really is just a job. Even if you're a surgeon, it's your job. So if you're a funny person and you're silly, you're always going to bring that into the workplace. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to share with you, I had a friend who was a nurse in ICU unit, and she was supposed to meet me at a party, and she never showed up. And this was way before cell phones. So the next day I called her up and I said, how come you weren't there? And she said, this patient was supposed to die and he lived and I had to stay.
Oh,
she actually said that.
Oh, man.
Which sounds so horrific, but I guess if it's your job,
yeah,
that's the way she reacted. I mean, look, she was a nurse, so she definitely, had a good heart, but that's the way she felt about it.
Well, I get it. It's you don't want to hear that someone feels that way when they're dealing with you, but they need to eat lunch too.
Yeah, right.
Or they also have cramps or need to get to someone's little league game. Like, and if you're gonna die, I mean, would you just be considerate?
Die on time.
Yeah. What are you lingering for?
I had plans. Yeah. I had tickets to a concert.
Exactly. How dare you? Oh my God, that's so funny, but it's so honest, and
Yeah, I'm sure she was in a spot.
Yeah.
So, have you now, or have you ever played the marimba?
No. So that was just for the show. But what a fun instrument. I love the marimba. I love listening to the vibes. It's a beautiful sound. I love Roy Ayers. Are you guys Roy Ayers fans? Everybody loves the sunshine. He plays the vibes, and it's beautiful. But it's an instrument that I never would have thought of. That was not my idea.
Right.
But it's so weird that of course she plays it.
Right.
It is so weird. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And by the way, and it's silly and it's funny, and it's my favorite episode because she's really sort of coming apart during that as her marimba teacher has moved along. And I just love that something like that would come out of the writer's room. The marimba.
Yeah. The marimba. Oh, we have the best writers, I'm telling you. Every time they give us a script, I'm like, well, this is damn near perfect. Then they improve it. And we shoot it. And on top of that, we're allowed to improvise, and nobody's real precious about, the words and everything. So it's a good mix of collaboration, and I think it makes it funnier. So
oh yeah. I mean, the writing is just perfect. And there was one. I guess it was the first episode of the first season. Oh, it is only the first season right now, where the surgeon, you bought the mammography machine and the power went out,
Mhm.
and he came over to someone's desk and put his hands down on the keyboard
Right.
to revive it.
Right.
And then he was like, just kidding. But just stuff like that. To me, silly is my favorite when you
Yeah.
get it right. When you get
Oh,
it right.
yeah. And people do that all the time in a hospital. Like, oh, I'm gonna give palpitations to the keyboard. You know?
Well, and then I would
Little
also
ER joke.
And I would also think, because you are in an environment where there is a lot of death and there's, sickness, and, there is a lot of sadness in hospitals
Yeah.
that, you would have, just to keep your sanity, you would have to have a sense of humor.
Oh, absolutely. To keep from just, sliding into the abyss. Of course. There's got to be humor in that. And I don't know, you know how it is when you have your work family and then you start getting punchy when you've worked too long.
Mm-hmm.
Like your shift won't end. For some reason, you're in overtime, and then everything is hilarious and you get the church giggles. And, those always come out at the most inopportune times, right? When you're not supposed to laugh, and then that makes you laugh harder. I would imagine that happens quite a lot.
Well, you've got an improv background. You came up
Yeah.
through the Groundlings. How much of the show just sort of happens on the set, apart from like what you do on the set as an actor and what you do as a cast?
Well, like I said, they're very cool about us improvising. So, you always want to get everything scripted so you have it. But if you have a brilliant idea, you just say to the director, hey, can I try something? They'll always let us, because some things you don't feel the joke until you're in the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can use what's right in front of you. Maybe an extra that's doing something weird, or just a prop or something that's, that set deck put down. And like, for instance, there's a big communal vat of Vaseline that lives on the counter. I don't know why it's always there, but it's there. It's just begging to be used. Why? We're really all dipping our fingers into this? I don't know. Yeah, there's, and again, our background, you never know what you're going to see when you walk in there. There's, medical consultants wrapping people up and putting casts on people every single day, placing them in beds and whatever. So there's always something you can use, or always something that's going to pull your focus, whether or not you want that. So, yeah, that's when the improv comes in.
Do you powwow at all in the writer's room?
No.
Mm-mm.
No,
Okay.
I don't. It's not like we are not allowed to go in and pitch ideas, and I have done that, but look, they're good at what they do. They don't need me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm not going to step on toes.
Right. Yeah.
You have your show. I mean, one of the great sitcoms of all time is The Office, obviously. And it's the same format. How do you feel when your show is compared to The Office?
Yeah. And that's always, people think they're so brilliant when they make that comparison. We never, yes, it's absolutely an homage to The Office, because the mockumentary workplace style is amazing. And, or people say, oh, you guys are just ripping off Abbott Elementary. No, we're not. They're also doing The Office, but it's in an elementary school. And if we're all being honest, we're all ripping off Spinal Tap. Isn't that the original mockumentary?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just an effective way to tell a story. And with the mockumentary style, there are jokes in between the words. That's why it's so much funnier. You have to look and pay attention to capture everything. So, sure, tell us we're ripping off anything. It doesn't really matter.
Well,
There's
notice
so
I did not.
No,
say
you
ripping off.
didn't. No, you
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
mean, it's something that people who like to be contrarian will say, in the comments section. But when you think about it, how many docu-series are there out there with spam? Someone's spamming me. Sorry. Just about workplaces. Like you go to TLC, there's, Ice Road Truckers, there's Deadliest Catch. There's just a lot of documentaries about workplaces anyway. So it makes sense to do a fictional one about a workplace. But
Yeah,
anyway.
right.
Yeah. Well, it's like the same thing with, St. Elsewhere and Scrubs and,
Right.
and all the cop shows that have come and gone and, Barney Miller and, whatever. It's kind of a stupid comment.
Big Barney Miller shout out there. I've not heard from Barney Miller in a long time.
Well, my husband's father was a New York City cop. And when asked, what is the most accurate cop show that's on the air? He said Barney Miller.
Really? Interesting. Oh, I used to love that show. And that funky bass line in the in the song.
You've got such a big comedy background. You came up through the Groundlings. I guess I wonder, were you like the funniest kid in school? Were you like the silliest kid in school?
I was funny and I was silly, but I was also shy. And so I think I hid behind that a lot. I was always, I remember watching Flip Wilson when I was a toddler and saying, that right there is everything. If I could make anybody laugh, that it really imprinted on me, like, be funny and people laugh and then they like you. So that was always, I've never wanted to do anything else. So, if you're asking, like, was I a big theater geek in high school? No. And I didn't major in it in college. And I was actively discouraged from pursuing it by my family. Mm-hmm. So it took me a little while to get up the guts to do it properly. I lived at home till I was 26. Till I got married. And so I would sneak out to auditions because I would buy Dramalog. I don't even know if that's if it's still around, but I didn't have an agent. I would get Dramalog. I would submit my I had one headshot and I would just keep making like terrible copies of it at Kinko's. And I would send it out and get these auditions for, dumb things. And I would drive out to Los Angeles, look at the address, and sometimes just drive right past it. Like, this place looks sketchy. I'm not getting out. But I was sneaking off to do it because my parents just thought it was so weird that I wanted to do this. And after I got married, my husband was like, why don't you just do this? I think you can do it. So that's when I got involved with the Groundlings. I was like, well, let's train, let's do this properly. And I thought, because the Groundlings is not an easy place to get through. And I thought, well, look, I'll just keep going until they kick me out. And maybe I'll get through the program. Maybe I won't, but I got to try. I at least need to get this out of my system. But they never did. And I got in the company and stayed there for about 7 years. And I owe that place a lot. They did a lot for me.
It is the one place that when people come to visit me from out of town, I take them to.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually friendly with Mindy Sterling, which I know that you're friends with Mindy.
Yes.
And and Annie. And
Mindy and Annie. Annie
they're,
Țărtești, the divine
yes.
Annie Țărtești, for your listeners who want to go look her up. You're going to say, oh, I know that girl.
Yeah, hysterical. So
yeah.
I always take them there. it is hilarious. So for you, I mean, who you said you were shy, I mean, what a great way to shed your shyness, huh?
Oh, yeah. But for me, for me, it's easier to be on stage in front of thousands of people than it is for me to sit at a dinner party.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know why that is. I don't know if I can put into words how that works in my mind, but it is easier. For some reason, it's less personal to be in front of that many people. It's more vulnerable to sit at a dinner table with strangers.
I got to be honest, I feel the same. I do a radio show, big, loose, wild radio show for ESPN every day, and they always say I disappear at night. I mean, I do disappear at night. I don't put myself in a bunch of social situations because I'm really by nature an introvert. And I'm wondering from you, so I've got a room with a producer and a associate producer and all that stuff. And so I know when I'm doing a bit, I can tell if it's working because I look through the glass and I see it's working over there. When you're doing comedy, do you have a sense of if it's working? Like, is this funny? Do you ever ask yourself that question?
I always ask that question. I don't know how anything's going to land, but if I look at the sound guy holding the boom mic and he's shaking, I know we've hit gold. You know what I mean? My favorite boom guy on the Goldbergs, he was my barometer of comedy. If his face turned purple, I knew we were on to something. If he didn't, if his face remained flesh colored, the joke wasn't working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, it's like comics, if the band was laughing, you knew you were funny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you are in one of the, and this isn't even hyperbole, one of the greatest comedy films of all time, Bridesmaids. One that if I stumble across on cable, I will always ride it out all the way until the very end. How did you wind up on that? And I guess when you were making it, did you know that this was going to be potentially a classic?
No, not at all. I just thought, oh, this is a fun movie we're making with our friends. And, I was a little green to movies at that point. I had done films, but I'd never done anything that was so involved to see how many people had their hand in fixing a script and rewriting. And let me back up. We did the table read for Bridesmaids in 2007.
Wow.
Okay. A long time ago.
Couple of years
And then it went
back.
away. Yeah. It went away for a while. I knew the writers, Annie Mumolo and Kristen Wiig. And I get a call in 2010 and they said, hey, you remember that movie that we did the table read for? It's coming around again and you'll probably get a call to audition. Oh, great. That's so sweet that you would even tell me this. So, time goes on. My grandpa dies. And that weekend was audition time. It was like on a Saturday, which was unusual. And I was not happy and I didn't want to go and I almost didn't go. But I thought, no, my friends arranged this. I need to show up. So I went in, I said some stuff and then I left and I thought, whatever. It was nice that they let me audition. And then I got a call back and then I got another call back. And it was like, oh, look, it's just so nice of these girls to keep bringing me back. And the last, I think it was the third audition, the room was full of, the waiting room was full of just famous girls. I was like, I am not going to get this. I am just not going to get this. It's fine, whatever. Because I always keep in mind, like, when you're an actor, it's a numbers game. You just have to keep showing up, okay, and put in the time. So when I got it, I was like, oh, that's so nice. Now, my manager at the time was so useless, and he didn't find it funny, and he just thought I shouldn't do it.
Oh boy.
Because to him, sitting around waiting for work was better than actually working. And I said, well, I like working, you turd. So I'm going to go do this. You don't have anything better for me to do. I'm going to do it. So I did it, and it seemed to work out.
Yeah, it did
no,
seem to work.
At no point did any of us think that it would. Listen, I never thought I would still be talking about it 15 years later.
Yeah.
After doing 40-something movies, I never thought I would still be talking about this, but people seem to like it. And as people find deleted footage, then it comes, it kind of circulates through the interwebs, and it just keeps going. But yeah, we did not have any inkling that it would be a success.
So who were your funny role models? Like when you were growing up, I want to be like that person. I think she's hilarious. Did you have role models that you emulated or tried to emulate?
There's always Carol Burnett and Vicki Lawrence and Lucille Ball and all those. But who really popped for me was Tracy Ullman.
Mm.
And Gracie Allen.
Gracie Allen
was a kick in the pants and does not get enough credit for how funny she really was. You have to be brilliant to play that dumb. But Tracy Ullman really was mind-blowing, because when her show came out in the late 80s, the one that introduced The Simpsons to the world.
Yes.
It was groundbreaking because she was playing all the characters. Julie Kavner was there, and she, picked up some of the slack, but it was mostly Tracy. And I thought, I want to do that. I want to do that. If I could, make people believe that I'm all these different people, that would be such a powerful thing. So she really lit the fire under my butt.
I just watched, it was like the best of your character on Reno 911. And I never laughed so much in my life. And tell me if this is true. I think it was Matt Walsh who we had on the show. He was telling us that everybody had their homework was to go home and come up with characters for themselves and then go back and basically show them who they would be on the show. Is that accurate?
That's probably what happened with all of them. Now, I was brought in because the thing with Reno is it was at Fox for 2 years. They sat on it and never did anything with it. So then the rights reverted back to them. They took it to Comedy Central. And by that time, one of the girls had gone on to do something else. So they needed to recast, and that's where I came. So all I was given for this audition was, she's a sexy cop in Reno. That's not much, but Reno tells me everything I need to know.
Oh, yeah.
That's a specific kind of sexy. And in my mind, she's someone who just really thought she was more sexy than she was. That's funnier. I can't play real sexy. There's plenty of people in this town who can just show up and do that. I thought it was funnier if she just knew she was sexy and did not need you to tell her that. And, she's got a rich backstory. She was Miss Teen Whiskey Pete's. But all that came from us. Yeah, we invented our own backstories and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
But for me, it was something like they had known who they were for a while, and then I jumped in.
Now, was it completely improv? Because
yes.
because I the scene where you pull this guy over for drunk driving, and he comes out and he's supposed to walk the line, and you start giving him like dance numbers to do,
right?
And then he gives you suggestions of what it should be. I mean, it's just hilarious.
Thank you. That's something that I did in the audition, was the cop pulling someone over. But yeah, that clip has been viral for about 20 years, and people send it to me weekly saying, have you seen this? It's like, of course I've seen it.
You were there.
Yeah, I would. Do you know? I guess you don't know that's me, maybe? I don't know. But yeah.
I was in the room where it happened.
So you got the ability to be very, very funny, but also, and you see this in the Goldbergs, and you see this in St. Denis, very funny, but also a really big heart. Like I think that's what makes you special, is that it goes beyond just funny. Where does that heart come from?
I feel like the answer is usually in the opposites, right? That's an old writer technique. Like if you are stuck with something in your story, look to the opposite and maybe the answer is there. So as weird or troubled or bitchy as a character is, you got to look to the opposite to find their humanity sometimes. So no one is ever just obnoxious. It comes from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Or no one, Joyce isn't just a working machine. She has a breaking point too. And you have to show that to an audience or they will hate you. Maybe hate is too strong a word, but they won't sink their teeth into your character if you don't show them opposites.
Right. You spent 10 years on the Goldbergs. And I'm wondering, and maybe you're in for another very long run with St. Denis Medical, because it's very, very good and very funny.
Oh,
What's it like,
you.
the ebbs and the flows over a long series run like you had with the Goldbergs?
Well, I got to tell you that just about everything about that show was a pleasure. And we worked our asses off. The weeks were long. But because everybody on that set was a joy to work with, it was so much fun. When you spend 60 hours with a group of people, you're seeing them more than they get the best of you. Your family gets jack squat. Your family gets like whenever you're not napping during the weekends. But yeah, when you spend that amount of time with people, you get to know everybody. So we saw so many kids get born, so many marriages, divorces, people getting sober, blah, blah, blah. It was like living with your second family for 10 years. Like I still can't believe that. That was
that's a big chunk of life.
Yeah, that was such a gift. But yeah, it was interesting to ride that wave of, the kids are growing up. And so now the fan feedback is the kids aren't cute anymore. Well, fuck you. Everybody grows up and has the right to do that. What are you talking about? What did you think was going to happen? They were going to be, ninth graders for the rest of their lives? Come on. Yeah, I mean, we rode those changes just like a real family would. Like our the kid that played Adam started going through voice changes, and it was so crazy we had to address it in the storylines. When George Siegel passed away, we had to address that.
Oh, yeah.
And that sucked. Oh, that was a killer, but it was an honor. It was an honor to go through that with everybody.
And so now you're on another ensemble show. What's it like kind of being part of another family? And how long does it take to really feel like, you say you go to work and you're having a great time, it's the first season. How long does it take to get that family feel? We all like each other, but it's not a family yet. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason is because one of our cast members lives in Australia. Mm-hmm. I live 40 miles away. David is an older statesman and has lots of things going on. So the
we're not doing any field trips yet. You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
still in the new stages, even though we filmed the pilot in 2023. We then didn't get to work again for another year, thanks to the strikes. So, listen, we're friends. We love each other, but we're not in that. We haven't been together long enough yet.
So it's kind of like you're dating, but you didn't leave a toothbrush there.
There it is. Yeah. Yeah. It's still a very much closed bathroom situation.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Well, listen, I think the show is so damn funny. I started, to be honest, I started watching because I knew I was going to talk to you, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch. No, I got hooked on it and raced through all the episodes. So it is so funny. Let all of your castmates know. NBC, it is Tuesday nights at 8:00, and of course, streaming on Peacock. Wendi, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
There she is, Wendi McLendon-Covey. Very, very funny. I just remember that scene in Bridesmaids where she's talking about her kids and the underwear breaking in half because they're teenagers, and so damn funny. That whole scene on that plane in Bridesmaids is just ridiculously funny. And St. Denis is a really fun show.
It's hilarious. I mean, the first thing I thought of, obviously, was Abbott Elementary. It was hard not to say, oh, but it didn't bother me that it was like it. Every now and then you come across an actress that you really just want to hang out with.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like she just looks like she's a blast to socialize.
Well, she's right around the corner from you.
Well,
you
I
should
know.
Definitely.
And we have friends in common, so hopefully we'll get to hang out.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, there you have it. There is your Culture Pop podcast. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next time on the Culture Pop podcast.